Welcome, everybody. I appreciate folks joining in on this. And I will be doing a presentation on the new Unmistakable Events Grant Program, which was formerly known as the TGT Grant Program. And basically, we've adapted this so that it better aligns with the city's strategic plan. And we adjusted a little bit for equity purposes as well. So with that, I will dive in. Please, this is not meant to be highly formal in any way, shape, or form. So if you have questions that I'm going along, feel free to get me to pause and ask your question, or I'll take questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so now I have to share my screen. Oh, and just so everybody knows, I am recording this, and we're going to put the recording on YouTube so others can see it as well. Okay, as I said, welcome to the Unmistakable Event Grant Program for fiscal year 2025. This is the guidelines overview. As part of the 2025 budget, the City Commission approved a $150,000 grant program to encourage, promote, and strengthen events and programs that benefit the Lawrence community and/or enhance the visitor experience in Lawrence. The first thing, as I mentioned, is that this is now tying fully back into the strategic plan. I am with Parks, Recreation, and Arts and Culture. Forgive me, I didn't even introduce myself. My name's Porter Arneal, Assistant Director of Parks, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And I came here about a year and a half ago as we are fully integrating arts and culture under Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation is unmistakable identity. So that's the outcome area that Parks and Recreation is responsible for. And then the commitments, these are sort of the commitments that overlap mostly with what we're doing with this program. So you'll see that throughout the presentation in different areas. And of course, the unmistakable identity slogan or phrase is Lawrence is a welcoming community, synonymous with arts, diverse culture, fun, and a quintessential downtown. City parks and community events contribute to the vibrance experienced by all people in Lawrence. And everything will tie back as well. Some of you are probably familiar with our key progress indicators, KPIs. These are the ones for unmistakable identity, and it shows where they cross into the commitment areas. So this is community engagement, efficient and effective processes, equity and inclusion, sound fiscal stewardship, engaged and empowered teams, and environmental sustainability. And what these each do is they give us a reference point for measurement, whether or not we're moving the proverbial needle forward or not. So this is how we're measuring our progress as we go through our programs. And this shows what it looks like on the website. If you go to the City Strategic Plan website, you can actually see how we're measuring these things. And of course, transient guest tax is what funds the program. The TGT is a 6% tax levied on the rental of rooms, lodging, or other sleeping accommodations within the city. This tax applies to establishments offering more than 2 bedrooms for guest accommodations and is applicable to stays of up to 28 consecutive days or less. The revenue generated from the TGT is allocated to support tourism-related activities and events that enhance Lawrence's cultural and economic landscape. And then it talks about this program as well. Overall, the transient guest tax in Lawrence and other cities serves as an important tool for promoting tourism and supporting events that contribute to the city's cultural vibrancy and economic growth. I will pause here for a moment for any questions. Anybody have any questions thus far? A studious group. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, the Unmistakable Events Grant Program is administered through the Parks, Recreation, Arts, and Culture Department as part of the Unmistakable Identity Outcome Area. Grant application review will be conducted with the assistance of a diverse ad hoc volunteer committee of 7, comprising members from the Cultural Arts Commission and Parks and Recreation Advisory Boards, as well as individuals with background in arts and culture, tourism, and economic development. This committee will review applications and make recommendations to the City Commission, which has final approval of grant funds. The goals of the program, the goals, this threw me off. So the goals. The Parks, Recreation, Arts, and Culture Unmistakable Events Grant Program is a competitive funding opportunity for Lawrence-based events that are open to the public. To be eligible, events should meet most of the following goals. And these are what tie back to the strategic plan that I mentioned earlier. Strengthening Lawrence's unmistakable identity, providing economic impact, demonstrate a measurable economic benefit by enhancing the travel tourism economy, including the generation of additional transient guest tax and sales tax revenue. Cultural impact, demonstrate a measurable cultural benefit by enriching Lawrence's diverse and unmistakable identity through activities or initiatives that foster cultural growth and attract visitors. Community engagement and inclusion, foster community engagement with a focus on inclusivity by hosting events that resonate with diverse audiences, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color or BIPOC residents. Events should aim to increase the percentage of residents who feel their culture is celebrated in the community. And sustainability and environmental stewardship, promote events and programs that celebrate, enhance, and increase awareness about environmental sustainability, contributing to Lawrence's long-term environmental goals. The guidelines of the grant program, we have a scoring matrix which is aligned with the goals listed above and will be used to evaluate applications. I'll show you that coming up. Eligibility, state registered for-profit and not-for-profit businesses may submit one grant request for events held throughout the year in Lawrence, Kansas. Grants start at $600 and are limited to $15,000 per event. Local focus, only events that are held within the city limits are eligible for grant funds. Events should strive to become self-sustaining over time, although the city retains the discretion to fund events that align with the grant program goals. Focus on marketing and promotion. Funding can be used for overall event support with a particular emphasis on marketing and promotional efforts. This could include advertising, printing, video production, email marketing, web design, and graphic design services. And the impact on tourism, events expected to generate overnight stays, especially during non-peak times, which is December through March, and weekdays, Monday through Thursday nights, are particularly desirable. Benefit scoring will reflect the potential for generating transient guest tax during off-peak periods. Guidelines are continued here. In-kind and cash support applications should note the value of in-kind services or cash support from other organizations, with required letters of commitment included as confirmation. Post-event reporting, recipients of grant funds must sign an agreement with the city, including a requirement to submit post-event reports within 1 month of the event. Reports must include a summary, participant data, and details on the use of city funding. Failure to submit a report may disqualify the organization from future funding opportunities. And recognition, we ask that events receiving funds include the City of Lawrence and Explore Lawrence logos on sponsorship materials and acknowledge the city's support. City logos can be obtained from that web link on our website and from Explore Lawrence, Allison Calvin. You can email her and she can get you that information. And this is what the scoring matrix looks like. So this is what the ad hoc panel members will get and score each grant before they come together and discuss the overall scoring that I'll put together after they submit their individual scores. And I know that's really hard to read, so I blew it up for you. Basically, it's 100 points, and this is all set up for individual scoring representing all the areas that I showed you before. Hang on, somebody's chatting with me here. Kathy, I can't do that right now, but what I can do is follow up and send a link to the logos. Okay. And that's because I'm on an iPad and a laptop. Now, on the equity piece, there has been some concern expressed about whether or not these grants are available to newer programs and that type of thing. So please note that there's an increased equity for the city's 2 grant programs. The city administers 2 annual grant programs, which are both funded by transient guest tax funds. These are the Unmistakable Events Grant Program, which supports public events, and the Cultural Arts Commission Community Arts Grant Program, which is dedicated to arts and culture projects and initiatives. Starting in 2025, to make things more equitable, each event or arts and culture program can only receive 1 grant. This can be either from the Unmistakable Events Grant Program or the Community Arts Grant Program, but not both. And of course, the grant applications have to reflect either the event side of things or the arts side of things. However, if 2 separate nonprofits are working together on the same event, they can each apply for their own grant. For example, if the XYZ event is awarded funds from the Unmistakable Events Grant Program, the ABC Arts Program, which is part of XYZ, could still get support from the Community Arts Grant Program. This setup helps encourage local event organizers and art agencies to collaborate, creating more opportunities for everyone. Plus, the application timelines for these grant programs are organized so that applicants will know if they receive an Unmistakable Events grant before the deadline for the Community Arts Grant Program. This makes it easier to plan and help provide a fair chance to receive funding. Any questions here? Okay. These are the important things to remember. The program will have 1 funding cycle each calendar year, with applications being accepted in the fall of the year preceding the funding year. A volunteer committee will review the applications and make recommendations for funding to the City Commission for final approval. The value of financial support or services provided by other organizations should be included in the application and noted as in-kind support. If cash or in-kind support has been received for the event, the application must include a letter of commitment as confirmation. Any entity receiving Unmistakable Identity Grant (TGT) funds for an event must be registered and in good standing with the State of Kansas Secretary of State and will be required to sign an agreement with the city, which will require post-event reporting, as I mentioned earlier, including a summary of the event, data captured from the event, including participant projections, and use of the city funding in the overall budget. Post-event reporting is due to the City of Lawrence within 1 month of the event or program. And if an event report is not filed, future funding opportunities through this program may not be allowed. Any entity receiving Unmistakable Identity Grant funding will be required to include the City of Lawrence and Explore Lawrence logo on sponsorship program materials and credit the city for sponsorship when appropriate. The city logo is available at that link that I mentioned before, and you can contact Explore Lawrence for logos. Allison's information or her email was in this as well. After the applications are received by the deadline, the committee will begin their review process. Applications will be posted on the city's website. The meetings of the committee will be open to the public. And this is the anticipated timeline if all goes well and there's no surprises. The application period is November 8th through December 11th. And the deadline is December 11th by 11 p.m. The application is online. I'm conducting 2 of these meetings, and as I said, we'll put the video on the webpage as well and the presentation. And then Friday, January 3rd, the ad hoc committee will meet to review scores and make recommendations. And if all goes well, then Tuesday, January 7th, 2025, the City Commission will review the Unmistakable Events Grant Program funding recommendations for approval at the City Commission meeting. And here is the contact information with the link to the grant program and also my contact information if there's anything you need. And I think that is all I have on the presentation side. So I'm going to stop my sharing and see if anybody has any questions.
So
No questions?
Yeah, so just to be absolutely clear, organizations are only going to be allowed to receive grants from one of the two programs, regardless of the scope of whatever the project is, or if they're completely different events or things like that.
Yeah, that's right. And as I said, this is the event grant opportunity, and then the community arts grants has $70,000 of funding, so it's a smaller grant program. So those grants will actually be smaller, and as I mentioned, will be dedicated to art-related projects. But as I said too, if an entity gets a TGT grant, they could work with another entity that could then get a community arts grant or potentially another TGT grant, I guess, to add that component to the event. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how we're just limiting each to one, but there can be collaborative overlap.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Reading through the materials, it seemed as though the economic impact piece was really the major piece that we needed to meet, which wouldn't apply to my group. So did I misread that, or I think they mentioned it several times how we need to be getting people into hotel rooms and eating at downtown.
It's a both and. So it's both for cultural impact and also economic impact. So don't read into that, but we do try to convey to people that there is an interest in replenishing revenue from TGT and sales tax, but that's not a sole requirement. So if your grant, if your event is hitting other aspects of this, then you should still submit.
Are they given the same number of points on the scale?
It's all going to be weighted according to those criteria. So somebody, and nobody's going to be comprehensive. So somebody may be stronger in the hotel or sales tax side and bringing outside visitors, but another event might be stronger on the cultural side and equity, perhaps.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Porter, can you go back over again what is required in the reporting, please?
Any entity receiving Unmistakable Identity Grant Program or TGT funds for an event must be registered. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. This is taken straight out of the guidelines. So it's actually, you can look it up in there too, but let me find. Okay, I just read it, right? Oh, okay. Sorry, it was the right one, but I was reading the top part first. So let me read the whole thing. Any entity receiving Unmistakable Identity Program or TGT funds for an event must be registered and in good standing with the state of Kansas Secretary of State, and will be required to sign an agreement with the city, which will require post-event reporting, including a summary of the event, data captured from the event, including participant projections and use of city funding in the overall budget. Post-event reporting is due to the City of Lawrence within 1 month of the event or program, or by the end of the year. If an report is not filed in time, future funding opportunities through this program may not be allowed. Anybody else with questions?
Since we would be new to something like doing this. How do you track expected beds in a hotel?
How do you track expected beds in a hotel? Oh, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much a educated guess. For instance, if somebody was doing a sporting tournament, they would have a good sense of how many people would be coming in from out of town and likely need hotel rooms. And a big event like that often books hotel rooms ahead of the event. So they actually know what room blocks they have and that type of thing. The other thing I would say is that Explore Lawrence, I'm sure, can help with something like that to figure out, to get an estimated number if you've never done something like this before. And keep in mind, it's not just hotel rooms, it's also Airbnb. And so, that all helps with the TGT funding. But again, it's not the sole requirement. I want to be careful there. It's a real delicate balance. It's both about our unmistakable identity and our culture, and also about economic development. Does that help? That makes sense?
Yeah, enough. Jamie, is that something like, do you guys track through like credit card sales and looking at like zip codes or something? Like, how do you know your impact with tourism?
Yeah, we look at, we can run reports of zip codes, where tickets were purchased from. And so that gives us a good estimate on where people are from. But yeah, it's hard to do the estimate on how many of those people were staying at grandma's or how many people stayed at the Holiday Inn.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Definitely talk to Explore Lawrence. I'm sure Kim or somebody can help you with that and give you some insights as to how you might be able to better measure that and get a sense of it. Okay. Like I said, there's another one of these next Friday. So if you have questions arise, feel free to reach out to me. All of this will be on the website. This presentation, I'll get this video up as soon as I can. So happy to answer any questions as they come up. Feel free to reach out. And thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. See you, everybody.